Hello. Hello, everyone. Welcome. Can you hear me okay? We all good? Yes. Hello. Hi. Welcome. What a wonderful room to be in. So many energetic and friendly faces. I don't like to assume, but I am guessing that you are in this session because maybe you are feeling some sort of overwhelm. Y- Yes, yes. We're living in some crazy times. There's a lot of change going on, and it is maybe getting to be a bit much. Yes, some nodding. Some people go, no. I don't know about you, but I feel like the pursuit of relevance in these times sometimes lead you astray and push you further away from your purpose. Um, Tends to kind of lead to a sense of keeping up for the sake of keeping up, right? And I believe that momentum is not something that comes from moving faster. It's something that comes from knowing what you're moving toward, or maybe even why you're moving at all. I'm a brand strategist, so what I do in my day-to-day job is that I help brands figure out who they are, why they are, and who they're for, and then try to express that in the truest way possible. So reflecting upon this session, I was thinking, how might I take what I tell brands is good strategy and apply that on individuals, maybe feeling a bit pressured and stressed in the times that we're living in? And that's what we're going to be addressing today. But before we do that, we need to reflect a little bit on why change is so damn difficult. I know change is good and it's the source of innovation and we need it, but why is there so much resistance or sometimes resistance? The thing is that our brains are wired to treat uncertainty as threat, and it processes psychological danger and ambiguity in very similar ways as physical stress or physical danger. The amygdala doesn't distinguish between a reorganization or a pointed email and a predator. It just screams, danger, danger, danger. Our brains also like to use a lot of shortcuts. We call these biases. And there's a specific bias called the status quo bias, which means that our brains systematically overvalue what we have and fear loss more than we value equivalent gain, which tends to lead to a lot of people being spoon people when they could have a shovel. This is not weakness, this is biology. Our brains and bodies haven't evolved enough to keep up with the current times. It doesn't have the tools to deal with our modern age. So why should you expect that of yourself? Why should you expect of yourself to keep up with the crazy change that we're in? The movements of tech in the world in general, I don't know if you feel this, but I can feel it when I read all the news flashes about new AI launches or new product launches, is that if you switch off for a second, you will fall out of relevance. And that's just a really scary feeling. Falling out of relevance is something that we fear a lot, right, in our careers. And this is a kind of change fatigue. It leads us to being tired with having to keep up. And change fatigue is real and measurable, and it manifests itself in many different ways. Gartner did this research where they've seen that employees' willingness to support organizational change dropped from 74% to 38% between 2016 and 2022, stating reasons that it just doesn't feel serious anymore and there's too much to take in. There's also recent data that shows that 41% of Gen Z workers actively sabotage their employer's AI strategy. Right? We don't want to hear this at a tech conference. but fear is one of the main stated reasons, but also change. And I think this is because a lot of people are seeing the result of people performing adaptation without actually integrating it. Kind of sort of keeping up appearances on the outside while quietly losing it on the inside. Do you recognize, do you know this about yourself, or have you seen this in the workplace maybe, where you're like, we are championing AI development, but then are we really? And how anchored is that in the organization? This is really common, and you're not alone if you've experienced this. So what do the non-thread losing brands and people have in common? What is the antidote to this situation? Resilience. I know this is a really icky LinkedIn word that people use a lot of the time, and they're like, we are resilient, we managed to overcome X, Y, and Z. I think the problem with resilience is that people don't actually know what it means a lot of the time and get it confused with toughness. Resilience is not toughness or being able to absorb more pressure. I think that's what a lot of people think, like, oh, you need to be resilient. You just need to be able to take all this crap and deal with it. That's not resilience. That's endurance, and that leads to burnout. If you just keep on taking all of the pressure, eventually you're going to run out of capacity. Some people have more capacity, some people have less, but eventually you're gonna burn out. Resilience is rather the ability to return from tough situations, to navigate and finding the way in between the pressure that comes at you, and not changing or losing yourself in that process. So how do you become more resilient? A question to the room. If you reflect for yourself, when you're under pressure at work, does your attention go toward what you can control or what you can't control? Psychologically, resilient people share a common trait. They're really good at focusing on their sphere of control. They're putting their focus on what they can do about a situation, what they can control, what they can influence, and leave what's out of the control outside of their state of worry. For brands, what's out of your control could be what a competitor is doing, or market shifts, unforeseen events, pandemic, you know. What's in your control is how you show up and how you deal with those situations, or what change you want to drive in the market that you're in. For a person, this could be about regulating or controlling your feelings, in the sense that you could choose what mindset to have when you're faced with challenges. See it as an opportunity to learn from, or an opportunity to explore, or it could be about acknowledging stress and fears and communicating that, so you take power over a situation. It's basically about choosing where to direct your energy within the chaos. And it's not to be confused with toxic positivity. This is not what it's about. And it's not about being complacent and like not caring about the things that's beyond your sphere of control either. But it is about having an action-oriented focus, being constructive, and also a source for self-preservation, because some things you just can't let into your sphere because it's going to bring you down too much. And you're just a person and you need to survive, right? And the problem with the sphere of control is that when we get a lot of pressure, that creates noise, and noise makes it difficult to focus. Noise tends to make us more reactive rather than strategic, or it can make us paralyzed and not know what to do at all. What you need is that you need a clear signal to cut through that noise, something that you can use as an anchor or as a North Star or whatever imagery you want to use, something to guide you through those tough situations. So let's talk brand strategy. The first and most important rule of brand strategy is that you need to reject the idea of being everything to everyone. Knowing who you are and who you are for is the thing that creates clarity in branding. It's basically saying we choose to be this is who we are, and we are for these people. Being specific and being committed to that helps you make choices. It helps you decide what to look like, what to do, what to innovate next. And what we're going to do today is that we're going to have a little fun with something that I like to call the signal model. It's basically kind of like a very light positioning exercise, or something that I could use with a client in preparation for a positioning exercise to get to know them better. So today we're going to be getting to know everyone a little bit better. It's basically 3 steps. It's about identifying your signal, This is your non-negotiable core. It could be your values or way of working, the thing that makes your contribution recognizably yours, something that if you changed it, you would stop being you. The expression is how your signal is showing up. And this is something that's meant to be changed. It could be your role or your tools, your methods, your industry, something that's not necessarily permanent. It could be completely flexible. And it's where like you're doing it, but you're not losing yourself. Lastly, we have your noise, and this is the external pressure. And obviously, a lot of us face the same type of pressure, but some people tend to listen into more of a certain type of pressure than others. So it could be fear, comparison, or whatever it is that drowns out your signal. And the job of a strong brand and a strong person is to not let the noise rewrite the signal. And we're going to be exploring all of these three things today. And just a disclaimer, for this to work, we're not going to be able to do this fully. I mean, this would maybe take hours. Maybe you need weeks to reflect on this. But for us to get something out of this session, we're going to need to be vulnerable, and we're going to have to dig a little bit in ourselves. And if you're comfortable, sharing with the people around you. So first, we're going to be exploring our signal, our non-negotiable core, the thing that is going to help give us clarity in pressured situations. If I want to show you a brand example, I'd love to show you Volvo. We heard about Volvo earlier on the stage today, right? Volvo is such a great example because they've been around for so long and they've consistently used safety as their position. And it's the signal that they follow through every innovation they do, every rebrand they do, every marketing campaign. I mean, this is a pretty old campaign, right? That's the signal they follow. That's the thing that makes Volvo truly Volvo. It's the thing that also helps them decide what to not compete with, right? I am not going to be a Lamborghini because I'm not a Lamborghini. We're going to be about safety. So the signal is basically identifying what is recognizably you. What is you in your core across different career changes, across different projects, or whatever disciplines you've been involved with throughout your career. What is your kind of fingerprint? What is the identity you leave behind? So we're going to do now a part of the workshop bit now where you're going to be reflecting on this question. And for everyone who's online, you can do this on your own with a pen, or if you're sitting with someone, you can do this as a discussion. And I'm only going to give you a few minutes, so be open and just let it flow out and reflect on what work are you proudest of across your career? Can you find a common denominator there? Is it what you did, how you did it? Was it the result? What is happening there? So reflect on this question and take a partner that's sitting next to you and discuss. Bring out a pen if you have or a phone and take notes. And yeah, I'm going to let you know when you have a minute left. Okay, you have 1 more minute. Okay, we can get ready to wrap up. Ready to wrap up? Yes. Okay, ready to wrap up? So most likely you barely got to scratch the surface, but how was it? Was this a difficult question? Yes? Yes, for some more than others. How does it make you feel thinking about the proudest moments of your careers? Yeah? It's a good thing, right? Want to do more of the stuff that makes us feel proud. I think pride is a good key in this question rather than just talking about, like, who are you? I mean, that's a very broad question. What makes us proud is usually because we've accomplished something, maybe in spite of challenges, or maybe it's because it just felt really true to who we are and who we want to be and the output that we do in our lives. Next up, we're going to be looking at expression, the thing that is basically how our signal is showing up. The signal is there, and then, like, how does it manifest itself in different ways? For brands, this could be like, what the brand packaging looks like, or the design and how that changes, the tone of voice, campaigns, product range, things that develop over time and that might look really different. I mean, Volvo's ads surely don't look the way they did in the 70s, right? Yeah, they're a bit glossier now. For people, like I said before, this is your current role or your tools, methods, maybe even the industry that you're operating in. If you're like me, like to jump around and do many different things. So yeah, the things that change. And we're gonna look at an example that I really enjoy. We have Lyko. Are you familiar with this brand? Yeah, anyone not familiar? Oh, excellent. Well, see, they do good branding, right? Everyone knows who they are. Lyko, they've changed. I mean, I think the company has been around for like almost 100 years, almost. They started as a hairdresser. It's a family-owned company. They became a retail platform for hairdressers, professional hairdressers, and then they became like just this huge e-commerce beauty brand. And now they're also dominating the physical space. I read an article only a couple of weeks ago where Kicks and Åhléns were saying, like, we're just happy that we can get any market shares that we can because they're fierce competition. And obviously, they've gone through many different changes, and I'm guessing their signal has actually changed too. But what they've done really cleverly in their branding since 2020 is that they've been following this brand platform called Your Beauty Playground. This is what's informing Lyko and has done since 2020 in everything that they do. They basically want the connection to the brand to feel like a playground. And it means that they've been able to go from visual rebrands over the past few years several times without losing coherence. Because as long as it feels like a beauty playground, it's Lyko. And I mean, that's a good thing because this thing on the left here that felt really cool, hip, and modern like 3 years ago, it's already outdated. Like, they're changing with the times and they're following the fun, they're following their own playground. So now we're going to be thinking about your expression. And the question I want you to reflect on is, what have you changed in the last 2 years that felt good? Where you didn't lose yourself, but you felt like you evolved or took a step forward. Something where you felt more like you because of the change that you've made. You can keep with your same partner. So I'm going to give you about the same amount of time. Please open up and share with each other. And online, you do this with yourselves. Yeah. Okay, so get ready to wrap up. Come back to the room, yes? It's really great to hear everyone chattering and just like lots of friendly gesticulating and smiles. How was this question for you? Harder. What was hard about it? Yeah, it does take, you have to remember what did I do yesterday, what did I do last week, 2 years. Huh. I think it's a great reflection question because sometimes we don't know the consequences of the changes we've made until a little bit later on, right? It's difficult sometimes to see what you're doing and the effects it has when you're in the middle of it. So sitting down with this question can help you give some answers to, like, when is my expression like a true representation of myself? When am I in my element? When am I feeling like, yes, this is the path I want to be walking on? It can be something that you've said no to. It's not necessarily about changing and doing something drastically different. It could be small changes as well. Small changes in attitude, small changes in who you're working with, small changes in how you're using the tools that you're working with every day. I think a mistake a lot of brands do with their expression is that they don't focus enough on their signal and their brand truth. They just go into panic mode and be like, oh, we have to be relevant, so we're going to change everything. And it just feels incoherent. And sticking to the signal usually helps you evolve and helps you change in a better way because you don't lose yourself. But it's easy to lose yourself when you have a lot of noise and external pressure. For brands, this is, competitors, it's trends, it could be cultural shifts or new technology, or it could be investors. I mean, that's a pretty big pressure if you're running a business, the investor pressure. We have to do this because I've heard this, or this is the trends that's happening. For people, obviously, it could be exactly the same thing here, but maybe it's also more general comparison, expectations on yourself, or expectations, that you think that other people have of you, but maybe that's not even true. It could be fear or pursuit of validation or a feeling of responsibility that can add pressure to you. And I think the brands that lose themselves are usually the ones that started making decisions based on what everyone else was doing rather than what they stood for, right? Because then they end up not looking like themselves or feeling like themselves. They chased a trend, copied a competitor, or responded to pressure by becoming someone else. Not so great. An example of this, we have Gap. Everyone familiar with Gap? Yeah, so in 2010, they decided to do a rebrand because they were feeling the pressure to modernize and stay relevant. They were butchered and reverted within a week back to their old logo. I read somewhere that they try to make it as like they were doing this as a campaign to kind of like help get people to design their next logo, but it definitely felt like that was not the true reason. And it's not that, like, I think the reason they got so much crap for this is because it didn't feel genuine. It didn't feel like a representation of the brand. It felt like they were trying to stay relevant. People could kind of smell that they had pressure on them, and it just felt wrong. Another more recent example is Cracker Barrel Old Country Store. I'd never heard of this brand, but it blew up in my in my field of work because they were also butchered for their rebrand. It's a really, really, really old American brand, and they had new leadership that were putting pressure on that the brand had to modernize in order to reach a new generation and stay relevant. So they did this, what a lot of brands do now. They made it a little bit sleeker, a little bit more web friendly, removed some detail and craft, and voila. They were also completely butchered. People hated this. They said that the heart and soul of the brand was lost, and they could feel like it was boardroom written all over it. And that came from the younger generations too. So this wasn't like a relevant move in order to keep the young generation's interests. So we have pressure to modernize from just general stress. We have leadership pressure. We're now going to be looking at your pressure. I want you to name your noise. What pressure are you feeling right now that might just be noise? What are you considering changing or doing that, if you're honest, doesn't feel like you? And this could be like an actual person who's maybe putting pressure on you. Maybe it's just a general feeling. Maybe it's a trend. This is up to you to define what the pressure, where the pressure is coming from, and who is saying it. And I appreciate this might be like a tough question to talk to with a stranger if you're sitting next to a stranger. So share as much as you're comfortable with, and if not, take this question home with you and reflect on it. Right. Okay. Any questions? Are we good to go? Good to go. Okay, rock on. Okay, welcome back to the room. Okay, oh, I felt like a cult leader doing this. This was great. Hello, cult. Okay, great. How was this question? More difficult, easier? More difficult? Who said more? Yes? What was difficult about it? Yes, so there's a lot of different types of noise, internal, external, and maybe if you're feeling like it's like overwhelming and too much, what is the strongest one that's pushing you in the wrong direction? Maybe some pressure is also good and puts us on the right path, right? Not all pressure is bad, but what is the pressure that is noise and is just keeping you from staying focused? Like this is the pressure we're sifting out here, right? So finding like this distinguish between those can also be helpful. Like what is the pressure you want to follow and like help give you a push, and what should you cancel out? I think there's like three different types of situations where your signal is going to be put to the test, or like moments of truth for when you're going to find yourself needing to reflect on these questions again. And one of them is maybe when you're facing a big career decision, instead of like only focusing on, you know, the usual stuff about pros and cons, salary, title, growth opportunities, maybe also ask the question of like, does this move help me operate more from my truth and follow my signal, or does it take me away from it? Will it make it more difficult for me to stay in my truth and to kind of like follow my signal, right? In noisy times of stress or feeling lost, I think it's good to question yourself sometimes if you're exhausted because you're doing too much, or is it that too much of what you're doing isn't coming from your signal? Sometimes like our capacity grows. If we're doing stuff that we're thriving in, like our capacity can expand, right? Because we're loving it, we're feeling connected, we're feeling like ourselves. But if a lot of the stuff is draining you because you're not feeling like you're being you, then that can become more challenging. And then lastly, when navigating organizational change, because this is a pretty panicky situation, and unfortunately a lot of people have experienced this in the last few years, because we've been going through some trying times. Restructures, new leadership, changing priorities. I think this model can help you separate what you need to, what you need to adapt, like what in your expression can you change to kind of like fit into the new reality. And what do you need to protect? Like, what do you need to say no to? I think that distinction can kind of make change feel more navigable rather than threatening, and try to help to separate those two. And I think my main kind of like hope is that you're going to leave this and trying to think about these two different states when you're in stress or when you're under pressure, rather than going to the panic response, which might be to completely reinvent yourself or chase trends and like being a skill monkey, just adding everything like, yes, I can do that, I can do that, I can do that. Yes, I will do the next launch. And reacting to pressure, rather doing the strategic response and re-anchor yourself, like, who am I? Who do I want to be? What do I want to put out into the world? Interpret trends. You don't have to follow them. Like, what does that trend mean for you specifically? Clarify your value rather than trying to feel like you're becoming like something that's not valuable. Clarify your value. Say, this is who I am. This is what I'm contributing with, and show people how that's valuable. And treat pressure as information. Pressure can help us, understand other people. If someone's putting pressure on you, where is that coming from? Where is their pressure coming from? And use that as a kind of tool to understand the world around you, and not necessarily act on it, but understand it. And above all, if you only can remember one thing, reject the idea of being everything to everyone. Defining and understanding your signal is clarity. You can let AI be everything to everyone, right? You don't have to be that. What in your human you-ness do you want to protect and put out into the world? Focus on that and contribute with that. Continue with that. I think understanding and defining that for yourself will help to create clarity, and will also make you more valuable, because we need to be more human now, right? I'm just like forcing that on you, right? Like a threat. We need to be more human. But yes, focus on what is you and your human you-ness. Protect that, and then let someone else or AI be everything to everyone. You don't have to be that. So this is me officially giving you permission to not be everything and not keeping up with everything. I'd love to talk to everyone, so please reach out. My manager will probably hate me for putting my email on a big screen, but this is my email. Please reach out. I work at an agency called Oh My. We're part of the People group. It's a lovely collective of agencies with different niche competencies. We're defined by curiosity, and it's just like a really nice and friendly place to work. So please reach out. You can come by our offices. You can reach out to me. And if you're looking for work, go to the PPP group page and see what's out. I know there's a few roles listed at the moment. And I believe we have 5 minutes. So if anyone wants to ask a question, we have time for that. Yes? No, but I'd love to. Oh, yes. Ystad kommun branding. Yes, I'm going to sink my teeth into that. Thank you for the tip. Yes. Oh, yes. I read it this morning. People are very upset about Chalmers' rebrand. It's really funny to follow when you're in this because people get very upset. But it tells something about the relationship you have to brands, right? Yes. Well, I was very much an early adopter of AI. I was like, yes, and I want to do this all the time. I got really into it. And then now I'm still AI positive, but I am more restrictive with my personal use because I found like what makes me valuable and what I want to do and put out is something that AI can't replicate. And AI is kind of like worsening my critical thinking or my kind of like ability to stay confident in my recommendation. So I personally am like looking at very specific use cases for me when I want to use AI in my work because I don't want it to cancel out who I am or what I contribute with. And I think that's like one of the things like from this talk as well, like what makes sense for you? For some of you, it might make sense to do everything and you want to like add loads of skills and you want to do a lot of AI trends. But I think it's about like thinking about what do you want to do and how can you make that work for you? Does that answer your question? Okay, great, thanks. All right, I think we're going to have, oh, yes. Oh, 2 minutes. Okay, excellent. We have one last question if we have anyone in the room. Yes. I think these questions are really helpful for you actually, because this helps you to understand like what is your common denominator in your output. If you have very broad expertise or if you have lots of different competencies, then that's a good way to summarize this rather than trying to be like, I am in this box. I am in the vending machine, you press C4 and you get this type of product. Rather trying to think about like express your value as a multidisciplinary person. I think that's better rather than to think about like, hey, now I am this specific role. That's a better way to communicate value rather than trying to stay in the box that restricts you. All right, that's all the time we have today. Thank you so much for coming here. Reach out. I'd love to talk to everyone. Thank you so much. Thank you.